Hi guys, I want to talk to you today about 2C, managing classroom procedures. So 2C takes some practice because you have to get the kids to know the routines inside and out, and you also have to manage the adults in the room, right? So everyone in the room should be doing something. No one should be sitting around doing nothing, right? This is a well run classroom as far as the procedures. So there's no wasted time with, let me hand out these papers when you guys walk in. Who needs to get their pencil sharpened, right? There is none of that wasted time. This is the kind of standard that is going to be assessed well based on how well the students know how to run that classroom for themselves. So, for example, the materials that they need. They know where they are. Nobody needs to be told to hand anything out because the kids are going to walk into the classroom. They're going to go straight to the materials. They're going to sharpen pencils. Whatever it is that they need, they're going to do it like clockwork without having to be told to do it. And it's the same thing with any paras that you have in the room or any other volunteers or adults, interns, things like this, people like this that are supporting your classroom. They know where things are, how things are run, how to get the lesson started. The laptops are up and running. So that's what this looks like, and that's how you would get an effective or highly effective in this component. The only way to fail this component is if an administrator walks in and kids don't know what's happening. We're 10 minutes into the lesson, they still don't have their materials out. Or we're 10 minutes into the lesson and they don't know what materials they're supposed to have out, because those are two different things. There's the kid that knows what they need and they just haven't taken it out because they just don't care. And there's the kid that has no idea what's happening in the classroom, has no idea what they're supposed to get, even though they've been there several times, right? It's not the same as being a new student and not knowing where things are. That's different. It's the same thing with the paras. The paras come in, the volunteers come in, the interns come in, they sit down, they get on their phones while they wait for you to finish your lesson, right? That's like an immediate developing or ineffective, right? Everybody in the room, and I separate those two words, everybody in the room has to be doing something. Everybody needs a task. And I learned this from a principal that I used to work with in Queens. And it has stuck with me forever. Every administrator that I have worked with, I've taken something from, and that's how I have moved through my career, and it has served me well. So everybody in the room needs to have a task, right? No one should be sitting around. No one gets paid to sit around, and the kids don't go to school to sit around, right? So it's a well-run classroom in the sense that you have practiced the routines so well that you don't really have to say much to get the lesson started, right? Your prep periods are being used to get the materials ready and put them out. Your prep periods are the time to make sure that everything is set up so that when the kids come in, they know exactly where to get the materials because they've been trained on how to move through the classroom as soon as they come in, right? They get their materials, they know what subject they are on, and they get ready to work, and you can just smoothly go right into the lesson, right? If it's that you pull them to the rug as soon as they come in, then you've established that, right? Because you know that the materials will be handed out as soon as they get back to their desks, right? So you want to utilize your top kids here. You're always going to have your kids that want to be the teacher's helper. So utilize those kids, right? Delegate. You're going to do this, and maybe you want to make it like a reward system. Who's going to be the teacher's helper this week, right? Let them earn it. They want to do that, especially young kids. They want to do that. Older kids are not so much interested in that. They don't want to look like the teacher's pet most of the time. You might have one or two kids that are interested in that, but mostly younger kids love to do this, right? They want to be the teacher's pet. They want to earn it. For an older student body, you want to really have things already set up so that they know what to do, so that there's no wasted learning time, and there's no wasted independent time, right? So that means even after your lesson, they know where to get the materials that they need for that lesson. Everything is already set up. They've been trained to know where the science materials are, where the math materials are, like manipulatives and such, and which manipulatives they're going to use, right? Not every single manipulative is going to be the right one for the right resource for that math lesson, right? So they have to know which ones to get. So this is really what 2C is about, establishing those routines. And that might take a while. It may take you, a few weeks into the school year in September, especially if they're little ones. You're going to have to go over it a lot. You don't have a lot of time in between lunch and gym and, music and every other class that they have. You may not have a lot of time to go through routines. So you can go through the routines throughout the lesson, like fold it in to the lessons. This is what we do during English or reading or writing. This is what we do during math, right? Or you can go through it before you even start teaching those lessons within the next few weeks, right? So think about how you want to roll that out so that your classroom is run as smoothly as possible with a little disruption. Because when admin comes in, what they're going to be looking at is who's sitting around doing nothing and who has no clue what's going on while the teacher is just going on and teaching and with no materials ready or prepared. How are materials being distributed? Is the teacher going to teach her lesson or his lesson and then send the kids back to their desk while the kids sit there for who knows how many minutes while the teacher hands out paperwork? What's happening when the teacher is checking homework? What are the kids doing while the teacher's going around to each table checking homework, right? Those are the kinds of snippets of time that you want to just snatch up and make them into educational moments where the kids are going to learn the most and where there's not going to be any wasted time, because that's considered wasted time. What's going to happen is you're going to have a classroom management problem. When kids don't have enough to do and there's some minutes in between, they're going to play. That's natural. They're going to talk, right? So you want to minimize any moments of opportunity for playing and fooling around, right? So if you have someone who's your homework helper who's going to go, collect the homework, then do that. You can have your kids who want to be the student of the week, or you can have it be, your kids who just can't sit still. Give those kids jobs, right? That's a classroom management strategy. If you know that a kid just can't sit still, has to talk, has to be disruptive, give them a job that they can do every day, right? Maybe they're the kid that sharpens the pencils, right? As the kids are coming in. Like they're coming in and they're doing it quickly, right? So what you want to focus on is how smoothly can you run that classroom? Think critically about all of the in-between times, in between lesson and transition, right? How smooth is that? Transition back to their class back to their seats after the lesson. Transition from doing independent work to the share out, right? Transition from getting into the classroom, like getting from the last classroom, maybe it's music, maybe it's lunch, the last subject they had, into your classroom, right? What do those transitions look like? If you have a 45-minute period class, that's not a lot of time, right? So you don't want to waste a lot of time on either kids in the stairwell, kids going to the bathroom, getting, bins out to put on the tables. You don't want to do any of that. Kids should know where their sit spots are. They should have